make the entrance into the conversation. Welcome to Hypergraph episode, I think it's 42 at this point. It's kind of fun to celebrate. With Jenny. What?
42 is the ultimate answer to the ultimate question.
It is. There we go. And I'm excited for this episode with Jenny Co. We were slated to do this a while back and kind of went to the drawing board and rethought some things. It was kind of an interesting market timing as well when we were looking at bringing on Jenny Co. And so this Hypergraph Hour, I'm not going to be talking very much today. I'm very excited to not be able to talk this much because we have an amazing project that's building on Constellation and is really driving a vision around data monetization and really kind of more transparent data. And so I'm here to introduce Jenny Co. Jenny Co. Came to us about I want to say like a year and some change, like maybe a year and a half ago or so. With this vision, they went through the accelerator program V1, and then we brought them in close to the family and started working with them to really realize this vision and tie them into a lot of our vision around data monetization. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Michael and Jenny with Jenny Co. I'll hand it over to you guys.
Hello.
Nice to see everybody.
Thanks for being here.
Jenny, can you start? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I'll start. So I'm Jenny Diggles. I guess the Jenny of Jenny Co. Though honestly, the name came because we were thinking about the word genetics and how do you play with that and have something fun with it. So I'm really excited that we are presenting today. I really believe in what we're doing. Michael Nova and I have been working together for about 5 years. We've always been interested in very complex problems. And so this is really the evolution of where we've started and where we've gotten to now in wanting to solve a big problem for people and also empower people to own their health and to feel really great about it. I'm based in Denver, Colorado. I'm one of the co-founders and I'm on our board as well. And then this is Dr. Nova.
Hi, everybody. I'm Michael, and I am a doctor with kind of a background in computer science, and I'm based in San Diego with some of the rest of our team members, and I'm just as excited as Jenny is. We're basically trying to change the world and change the world in healthcare, and doing it in a very provocative manner. So I guess slide one. So the premise is that the data is summarized by Clyde Humby, who's a mathematician in the UK. Data is the new oil, and that basically means, like oil in the past, it fuels certain things like cars. But data now is the fuel in order to power large corporations. Large corporations, by and large, whether it's Google or a pharmaceutical company or whatever, are mining data to get insights about their users and then sending them either ads or doing something with that in a more personalized fashion. And healthcare is no different. Healthcare is all about personalization, getting the right thing to the right person. And everybody's data has a lot of value. The value is that we can tailor drugs or foods or cosmetics or whatever based on you, and it's not just based around genetic data. It's ethnicity. It's what you ate. It's where you live. Do you live in the 3-story building instead of a 1-story? All of that data is a value, and it's really a value in the healthcare space. A lot of large companies, a lot of insurance companies and pharmaceutical companies are mining a lot of this data to try and get insights. And you basically are kind of left out of that loop, and so we as a company are trying to put you back in the loop, that you are in charge of your healthcare, and you're in charge, and you have something that's of value. You might not be rich, you might be poor, you might be, whatever, but there's something that you have that's of value. And we would like to help you, get compensation for that. And that's really your healthcare data. So we're trying to empower not just the user we're also trying to empower the companies to take this data and do something with it and give you even better recommendations. Next slide. So right now in consumer products, as I mentioned, large pharma, insurance companies, personalization is basically the key to all products. And it's personalization basically is something that the user or the consumer is demanding. I want stuff that's relevant to me. I want to be, given things that are relevant to me, not somebody else. I just don't want to be in this big bucket and get things that are not useful. And in order to do that, you need to get data, about the individual. You need to get, what they like, what they don't like, the outcome data. Outcome data in healthcare is really important, and it's really the most valuable data. And it's valuable, for a lot of reasons. We have a huge chronic disease problem in the US, and the three big ones, or four big ones, are, the big one is really obesity, but that leads to type 2 diabetes, heart conditions, and cancers. And when it really comes down to it, it's, 80% of type 2 diabetes, 90% of cardiovascular disease, and about 50% of cancers, all preventable. And the entire chronic disease bucket in the US is $3 trillion we spend on chronic diseases. Our GDP is about 13 to 14 trillion, so it's a huge chunk of our GDP we spend on chronic diseases. And again, half of it, at least half of it to 60 to 70% is preventable. And another thing is as users, healthcare is kind of a, medicine, healthcare, wellness, kind of a, scary proposition. Users really have no control, over their own healthcare data. They don't have any control where it goes, who uses it, does it get curated correctly? Am I getting the right things, out of it? And so, we're in the business of not only, collecting information about you, the user, but also curating that information, making it useful, giving you recommendations back. Having companies come in and potentially mine, this data, which, in the healthcare business is an enormous, in the healthcare data mining is, I have a link in a following slide, is a $80 billion business, and, by the year 2030. So it's an enormous business to mine healthcare data. And again, you don't get anything out of it, as the user. And so we're trying to put you in the middle of this. You not only have control, but you have, you get personalized recommendations, but there's also security and privacy. Blockchain is really important for that. It's one of the reasons it's absolutely necessary for us to be on chain and to have, blockchain. And now, we're starting to collect, people's information. And we're seeing that a lot of these large companies don't get pre-curated data. When they go out and they try to mine something, they just get a kind of a chunk of data that doesn't have any meaning to it. So we're also in the business of putting meaning into that data by using artificial intelligence and what we call curation. And for a user, if you look at dollars and cents, your healthcare data is easily the most valuable data that's out there, up to maybe $5,000 a user. I just lost the slides, I think. Can everybody see the slides? I can't.
Yeah, the slide went away.
Yeah. So anyway, I can keep talking. That $5,000 a user at a minimum, and that's growing. So you as a patient and a user have have something that's of value. And so again, our solution, our Genico solution, is decentralized Web3, blockchain, and we're also trying to get the user to change their behavior, to do something, and then get a good outcome, and then get rewarded for that. So the whole system, using blockchain, using crypto, and using tokens, kind of was formulated over the long years Jenny and I were talking about this. And it just seemed to all make sense. It all came together. And so, Genico collects and analyzes your data from many different sources, whether it's your electronic healthcare record, whether it's a genetic test, whether it's, food log, whether it's your Apple, health system on your Apple phone. And we provide rewards for that, in the form of tokens. And we also provide, from a public health standpoint, we're very concerned about the data that we collect and giving you information back about yourself. So we're really, focused also on making recommendations, based around this, what we call HDM, or human data markers, all this different types of data that's out there about you and has some relationship to potentially be useful for your wellness, or healthcare. And we also provide on the app is kind of our big product, which will get launched in the next couple of months. But we provide kind of a complete, as complete a healthcare solution as we can. We will have telemedicine if you're interested in that. So we can get you hooked up with dietitians. We want you to think of Genico as you're going forward for the rest of your life as your healthcare partner, in this whole thing. And we're not, discounting the docs either. We have a lot of docs that are interested in getting into our system and collecting. When you have to go in for your physical or whatever once a year, there'll be a treasure trove of data that the doc can go through, and we can help them, try to understand what's going on, within the last year since the last time you've been in. The only way we were able to do this is because of Constellation's Layer 0 blockchain. We needed Layer 0 because that's where the sensors get hooked up into. It would have been impossible for us to, not only from, an economic sense, it would have been impossible for us, to use any other blockchain solution. And, we guarantee privacy, security, no gas fees, obviously. And there's also the whole idea of making it HIPAA compliant. HIPAA compliancy is something that is a regulatory system that we have, if we want to play in the healthcare space, if we want to deal with healthcare information, we have to go through this protocol, and that has to do with de-identification of your data, where we store it, how we move it around from one thing to another. So the combination of blockchain, HIPAA compliance will probably end up being the only, at least initially, HIPAA compliant blockchain that's out there as a product. And that has ramifications for large companies coming in and wanting to mine the data as well. Next slide, please. So the market's huge. I mean, if you look at, it's basically everybody with a cell phone, and anybody that's, has any kind of, healthcare data that we can get at. The total addressable market is enormous. It's everybody. It's basically everybody on the planet. Almost everybody on the planet has a cell phone. We're really interested in, obviously different ethnic groups and whatever. We have groups from China and other and Vietnam and whatever, they're already talking to us about, implementing our system in their countries, where a lot of these other countries have a lot of trouble getting healthcare down to people that really need it. People that are maybe financially distressed or, not as well off, can visit a doctor every year. If you've got a cell phone, you can get them information about themselves and reward them for doing something. Reward them for eating this instead of that, and trying to mitigate this whole chronic disease issue is something that a lot of countries outside the US are also really interested in. Our obtainable market, is maybe 1% of all 100 million smartphone users, which is pretty enormous just in itself, at 1.5 billion. Anyway, it's a big market. We're trying to change the world. As Steve Jobs said to John Scully, when he was trying to recruit him to come and run Apple, he basically said, and Scully was president of PepsiCo. He basically said, do you want to sell sugar water your entire life, or do you want to change the world? So we're really out there trying to change the world. Next. So our exchange basically is, we have basic block. If you look at two big groups, we have the data buyers and the data sellers. The data seller are are individuals that get put into potentially certain groups, their own little micro DAO, let's say, of people that have arthritis that are of a certain ethnic group. You give us data for that, you get put into a group. your DAO gets governance, tokens and governance, using the Genico. You're able to vote on initiatives within your own little micro DAO, and the data flows out of that into our what we call the exchange, where we collect a lot of the data and make sense of it, and then we have data buyers, people that are interested in coming in and mining the data. They can mine, individual data pools, data DAO pools. They can mine based on demographics, or lease period, pool sizes, anything that's potentially relevant to, let's say, a pharma company or a large tech company, coming in and wanting, this group of people that we're interested in potentially providing solutions to. And then the user can interact directly. The seller can interact, or the user can interact directly with whatever large, corp that they're interested in. And the voting, you vote in the DAO, the overall DAO, but also the micro DAOs. You vote in these DAOs, using Genico tokens, and that's part of the utility of the Genico token. Yeah, next slide. So we have a revenue model that's very dense. We have, again, two big groups, the data buyers and the data sellers. On the data buyer side, large companies would come in, or hospital groups or insurance companies or whatever would come in and buy certain types of, information from us using fiat. And then as the part of the fiat goes to the Genico treasury until the entire DAO is kind of filled out and it becomes a self-running system, and then the amount of fiat that comes in is reduced to zero, and the Genico exchange becomes fully decentralized. And so we derive our income basically from products and partnerships. So on the product side, we sell a lot of different things. We sell biomarker tests, we sell genetic tests, we have a mobile app, telemedicine services, and then of course the whole buyer services component, mining, data analysis. And then we also have the ability, in which we're going to launch, is healthcare data into QR code. There's a lot of doctors' offices that have outcome data they want to protect. Healthcare groups, have interest in also helping us, not only by giving us the data, but also contributing fiat or Genico tokens into the whole Genico system. And then we're also thinking about longer term as a subscription, blockchain service using multiple APIs. That's a much longer thing. Again, that's the guts of the company, the platform. There's interest from large groups and potentially licensing that out in some sort of service, and then developing their own system. Next slide. And then
yeah, Michael, I just want to jump in here because I think this is really powerful. That they've fleshed out this two-sided marketplace, and two-sided marketplaces are rather difficult to tackle. And why we wanted to work with Michael and his team so closely is because Michael had already figured this out in his former past lives and career on how to organize all these people, the data brokers, the buyers, and the creators, and provide this platform. So this was something that they had already really built behind the scenes, and then it was kind of adding the technology. And this is what is so unique in the entire space, is finding these real businesses that, a year ago they had both sides of the marketplace ready to go. And yet they came to us and were like, hey, we really want to understand crypto. And they spent a year to truly understand, Web3, and not just treat it as a bolt-on, but really understand the mechanics and frameworks to really make this platform more enhanced. So a lot of this has already been figured out behind the scenes.
Yeah, there's something else I actually want to add real quick there too. Something I really love about the business model is that the steps that people can take. So let's say they're going to buy a test through us to, learn something about themselves. while that in of itself is valuable information to them, then they can take it and upload it into the system, and it becomes even more valuable from a monetary standpoint, as well as, building out for recommendations for themselves with all their other data. So what I love is it's never just one thing that someone can do. That one thing then leads to multiple other opportunities and big opportunities for that person, as well as the people who are looking for that sort of data.
Yeah, that's very good. And we're really, when it comes down to it, in the business of tokenizing healthcare. And there's a lot of components to healthcare that have value. And there's a lot of ways, to bring value, not only to the user, the person that contributes the data, but also to the large companies that are interested in looking through it. And everybody, when it comes down to it, is interested in looking through, any type of healthcare information about you, whether it's a food company like Nestle or a tech company like Google or whatever. They're all trying to get more information about you. And we think we have a good plan that helps both sides of that, as Ben mentioned, both sides of the revenue bucket, the user and also the data buyer, where it's not a conflicting thing. This is a thing that's going to lift both boats. We also have an NFT coming, as shown in the slide. We're not quite sure about the details in terms of the numbers and whatever, but basically you get an NFT for a certain amount of crypto or fiat, or you get an NFT plus a DNA test plus a number of tokens. And we'll probably have that ready. I guess the last time we talked about it, I think Jenny, maybe in the first part of August or mid part of August, something like that. I mean, not August. Yeah. Sorry.
I was like, oh, no.
Months are flying by, So. My kids are back in school. I got to remember that it's fall. It's not summer anymore. Anyway, and this is kind of an overview of what it would look like. And we'll have more details in the next couple of weeks. Next slide. So the token economics, JC, we're all about utility. You earn for uploading your data. We give you information back about that data. You can earn more, by doing certain things. We're all, in this business of trying to incentivize the user to take better care of themselves and to give us information about how things worked out. Or, as Jenny mentioned, maybe you did buy a food allergy test or whatever. Give us that information. We'll reward you for that. And then we'll also give you recommendation. It'll go to your little, your little data sink, your little area, in Genico. That's all yours, your data, all the information about you, and the utility is we want you to be able to also access the information from us and get recommendations back that are useful. The users also control where the data can go in the DAOs, by staking and directing the staking of tokens in the pools of their choice. Or a user can do nothing. I mean, basically, a user can get into our system and basically upload some data and get some rewards, and then sit back and get information back from us, but without doing anything else. And there's also an ability to purchase different types of insights with Genico, whether it's a dietitian's food plan or certain other types of information. And then in the DAO, the only way you can really vote in the DAO is by using the Genico token. Very similar, in a lot of respects to the Door traffic miner, how the system of information gets moved around, and there's also applicable hardware and things to do about with the DAC token. Okay, next.
I'll just add on to that, since you were talking about the Door traffic miner. This is a massive shift in what I've seen in a lot of Web3 companies that are providing rewards or incentives for referrals and hiring funnels and providing platforms where you earn crypto for, references to new talent. This is actually taking this whole idea of DeFi and a treasury and DAO around tokens and really putting tangible value around data into a DAO. So this is a massive leap forward in Web3 and connecting real world value to DeFi tokenomics and kind of the structure and framework around controlling certain aspects like data.
Yeah, that's really true. I mean, we've heard that, from a number of other outside groups, that the utility part and how the the DeFi component, to Genico is really pretty novel, and again it helps kind of both sides of the data buyer and the data seller, and it's all based on the commoditization of the data and how you get rewarded for it. So our timeline, we've kind of really been hard at this, for the entire year, year and a half. And lately, we executed kind of our first alliance with Arizona State University, and it's kind of a multi-pronged alliance. It's not only for technology, blockchain technology and HIPAA compliance. It's also funding some engineering, work, and we have access to the engineering group, the blockchain engineering group there, and that has the guts kind of a HIPAA compliant system already in place. Was huge for us. It's also the other prong of this. It's also a way that ASU is very interested in kind of launching our app into their student body, and ASU is a very big school, 110,000 students in it. So it's kind of our first, kind of big alliance, with a major institution.
Largest public school in the U.S. Yeah,
Pardon?
It's the largest public school in the U.S. Public
I think that's correct. Yeah, it is certainly, if not the largest, it's certainly one of them. We kicked off our marketing, basically this month, kind of slow boil in that. Kind of the big things that are coming are, we have the minimal viable product on the app launch. That'll be early Q4. And then the NFT launch, of course, in sometime in probably October. And then we've suddenly gotten a lot of BD interest from groups outside the US. Those take a little bit more time, but we anticipate even having more of those, come along. And we're under active discussions with all of these groups. So and we've had some come out and even see us, at this point, wanting to be involved with us. So everybody kind of sees the value for one reason or another, whether it's a blockchain that's secure and immutable and has HIPAA compliance in it, or whether it's, getting recommendations down to a population group that has trouble getting healthcare. We can use the Genico system, to kind of do both. And then, we'll probably have some sort of, in Q4, some sort of, token, Genico token launch. And we're also on Lattice. We're going to be pushed out on Lattice, I think October 4th now, the Lattice network and some other, fundraising networks. So everything's kind of all at once the last couple of, certainly the last couple of months, and then going forward the next couple of months. The team is just A+. I mean, I've done this before. I've had a company, I've had a company go public. I mean, I know what it takes to put a good team together. And it's not just me and Jenny, although Jenny is a team by herself, as far as I'm concerned. But the rest of the team is just, you couldn't get anybody better. We have an MD that's our chief of token economics, was, worked at Bear Stearns for years and has been involved in the token industry for multiple years. We have our CTO in healthcare, who's at Harvard, who's all he's been doing in the past is alliances with pharmaceutical companies. And then we just hired Manish, and our CTO, his background, blockchain, worked at 3 enormous companies, and really sees the vision behind GennyCo, wants to get involved with putting the whole system together. And then we have our head of products, Chad, and Joe and Ryan in marketing. Ryan is a PharmD. We're getting medical people that have a little bit of a crypto background involved with us because they see the whole vision. And then we have our operations and then our client services. We also have a contract software engineers, about 9 of them. So the whole company's getting close to about 20 people that kind of work on GennyCo on a daily basis. And then our board members, myself and Jenny, and then Admiral Bill Owens. Next slide. He's a very interesting guy. He was the former chief of staff, the joint chiefs of staff for the Clinton administration. So he's a very powerful, but he's also a business person. He's been on the board of 50 different public companies. Very much involved with, he's on the board of a crypto trading group, and very much involved with outside alliances. He's helping us get it, getting our technology into China, Hong Kong, places that we would have real trouble getting into. And then one of our other advisors is Dragan, who runs the blockchain group, basically at Arizona State University. This is a world-class machine learning, cognitive networks, blockchain guy. We couldn't ask for anybody, better, to kind of manage what's going on at Arizona State University. So we're really happy. We're adding to the team all the time, and we're just really fortunate to be in the Constellation network, and to get Ben and the group, the Bens and Jenny in the group, just a lot of kudos for putting such a terrific Constellation company in place, and it fits our goal and fits our dynamic, almost perfectly. So that's kind of it. Unless Jenny has some comments.
Not really. I think I really do love this part about the team. I do love that what we have found as we've been talking about this. What I like a lot about talking about this is people understand it. So prior to me being in this space, I was in the cannabis industry for about 8 years, and I built funds. I did different things there. But what was fascinating is my parents never seemed to really understand what I did. It was very nebulous, which is funny to me because you'd think, well, I'm in the cannabis industry. There's a physical product here. And what do you not understand about these mechanisms of this market? Well, what's great about describing what we do with GennyCo is everybody gets it. It doesn't matter if I'm in a car with an Uber driver or talking to one of my physicians, they all really understand it. And so I'm very excited that the people who are involved in this team, a lot of them are coming from families that have a medical background, or their spouse is a doctor or a nurse, or they themselves, like Ryan, are a pharmacist. So, it's really nice to see these worlds come together. The other thing I really believe in is I believe that GennyCo could be an app and a product where we have crypto and we have blockchain as part of the backbone here, but it's going to be usable by people like your mom. And so they're going to get it. It's going to have actual function for them. And the fact that those are parts of it are valuable, but they don't have to be at the forefront. And so I love this idea of merging these worlds together so that we can do something and build something that is breaking out of just the crypto world and breaking out of just what we have seen. And it's a requirement, in my opinion, of this whole industry. Like, we have to start moving these businesses into a real world impact. So I'm very excited by what the potentials are with this. And yeah, those are some of my comments.
Yeah, I think, that's really well put. I think, for me, being on the medicine side, I'm really interested in trying to impact this whole chronic disease area, and the only way you get people to move the dial, as I mentioned earlier, is you reward them for doing something. People respond really well. They change their behavior. I've had a lot of discussions with insurance companies, and to a group, what their goal is. One of the things they do is they take historical data, and then they try to model going forward, what's going to happen. and then manipulate their insurance policies based on that historical data, that they've tried to model with. But these insurance companies, nowadays, they know that that when you look at outcomes of certain things, whether it's a surgery outcome or whether it's a drug that you used, the result that you get basically is 80% of that result, whatever it is, about 30–40% of that is genetics and the rest of it is lifestyle. So those two things together, genetics and lifestyle being, is basically exercise, do you smoke, are you obese, whatever, those two things together are responsible for the vast majority of outcomes. And so we're trying to impact are those two things, trying to get people to change their behavior. You can't really change your behavior, your genes, but you can change how your genes get turned on and what they do. And in chronic diseases, it's all about thousands of different genes, the little bit things that are happening at a time. Foods, impact how your genes are turned on and off. Alcohol impacts, cannabis impacts, whatever, the impact how your genes are turned on off. And maybe you can change the dial a little bit on the genetic side, by changing, your behaviors, eat this, don't eat that, do that exercise, don't do that, use that drug, don't do that, kind of thing. So for me, that's super exciting. This is a plan to try and really, get to this whole chronic disease area and to make a huge impact there.
Yeah, so to follow up on that, there's a question in the chat by someone named JC, and they asked, what's the first big use case you're going to tackle and incentivize with tokens? What we're looking at are what data sets do people currently have their hands on? So not trying to overcomplicate it, but within the app, there will be a really simple questionnaire for people to answer just to get some baseline going. But right now, a lot of people have access to some sort of genealogy report. A lot of people have done that over the past few years. And so that's data that can immediately get uploaded into the system, as well as through purchasing some of the other very straightforward tests that we'll be offering inside of it. That's another very easy way. So we're looking to just start to collect some of this data and allow people to see what they actually have available to them. And then with that, we'll start to look at what are the big problems that some of the buyer side are trying to solve. And with that, really look to how do we incentivize people to contribute data and insights around those pieces. But to start, we want people to just take data they have already available and make it as easy as possible to pull it into one place. And we see that being largely a lot of genetic data, Apple Watch health data, and some simple questionnaires.
Yeah, the use cases too are, since we're trying to impact this big swath of the population, the use cases are a little bit also age and, gender specific. If you talk to college students, you basically get, well, wow, I can, if I do this, I can lose a little weight, or I can be stronger, or, whatever. And then I get tokens and I can go buy beer with tokens, so whereas if you're talking to grandma, or some other, population group, that's not necessarily going to be, the use case for them that's going to be most useful. Maybe grandma isn't in the Dow for arthritis, and the Dow is concerned with, well, I've done this and it worked for me, and that data gets uploaded in the Dow, and maybe it works for other people too. So grandma's interested, in a totally different, potential use case than some younger person would be interested in. Or whether they have a chronic disease or don't, it really depends. But we have the good thing is we have a platform and a way, to help mitigate a lot of different, potential problems that a user would have.
Well, you guys, I think you really bring a lot of passion to this whole project and company. I will say one of the things that really interested me is I love builders. I love supporting builders. And this, what I've seen in like the last 4 or 5 years in this space is you get a lot of experienced professionals that just think they can bolt on Web3, raise money, and then forget about kind of the dynamics that crypto bring and the community brings. And with this, you really structured, not only just your experience, but focused on building something that's community first. And how do you take the structure of community and really bolt that into the core of your product? And so that's why, you know, I get really excited about this, is because, you know, when Michael came to me, he's like, I know how to build successful businesses. I've IPO'd companies. I've led giant organizations. I've scaled them rapidly. And I don't know this. And I'm here to learn. And that to me was so amazing, because I hear so many other people go, hey, I've done all this. Let me tell you how to run your business. And so that was a really interesting conversation that I had early on with Michael and Jenny. They gave me a lot of confidence in this, in JennyCo and their ability to execute. Not to mention, and just a proof point on that, is when we were supposed to do the Hypergraph Hour a few months ago, it was only like 4 people, and now we're up to 20 just a few months later. Like, this thing is rapidly picking up. And so I think that this vision has not only just, it's not just starting today, it's already started, and it's already been in the works for a while. This is just kind of the kickoff within the Web3 world. So I'm extremely excited about this and looking forward to seeing this on Lattice as well. You know, for next steps, first, you know, I think that Jenny and Michael are going to jump into Telegram in the Constellation, answer any questions that you guys might have for them, as well as I think they're doing a Twitter Spaces 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time later today, held by the DAG Chads. So, you know, anything else you guys want to sign off and say before we finish up this Hypergraph Hour?
No, again, we're very grateful for the whole Constellation group and, you know, everybody that's been working with us. It's just been really
Thank you.
It's been a great ride. You know, it's just starting, and this is not, and it's like you mentioned, you know, we've been at this for a while. You know, it's been day to day, over months, and if not years, trying to figure out, trying to learn, you know, trying to integrate things, you know, in together. You know, as John Wooden told his basketball players, you know, you need to run fast, but not too fast. And that's kind of what we did. You know, we were very deliberate about next steps, you know, where we were, you know, trying to figure out. If it wasn't the DAO, maybe it's something else, or maybe we do an NFT, maybe we don't. It's taken a long time, you know, to kind of digest all this stuff, because healthcare is complicated. You know, it's just flat out the most complicated thing, and the data is the most valuable thing. And we're trying to impact in a major way, you know, how people basically, you know, get their healthcare.